Welcome to Tabletop Endeavors, I'm Chris. Today what I'm looking to do is push myself to do my first kit bashing. So here's what's happening. I have these Ork Kommandos. I know they don't look like Ork Kommandos, but they came from the Kill Team Octarius box. I don't have the box anymore. You know, it's just about time I put them together. How long has that been? Like 3 years? I don't remember. The thing is, all of the orcs I have are Beast Snagga orcs. So if I put the Kommandos in just as is, they're gonna be a bit of a clash. Obviously that doesn't really matter for this game, but I like to have a little bit of cohesion, so I want these guys to feel a little more at home with my Beast Snaggas. The aesthetic I'm going for is not necessarily a complete overhaul, but more these Kommandos have been integrated into a Beast Snagga army, maybe through conquest or some other means, and over time, as equipment has broken, they've had to replace it with only what's available within a Beast Snagga context. So they're gonna look battle worn, but I don't want to completely discard the aesthetic they originally have because I think that's a really cool aesthetic. So I'm coming at this with absolutely no plan. I have various bits left over from other Beast Snagga projects, and I think today I'm finally gonna break out some green stuff and try and do some sculpting in order to add things like furs and leathers and maybe a few bits and ends, so we'll see. You've seen the thumbnail, so you already know what's about to happen. I have no idea. But you didn't turn in to see a bunch of plastic on the sprue, so what? Rather than wasting any more of your time, let's jump into the future where these models are already assembled and we can continue from there.
I am a great magician. Your clothes are red!
Amazing! Just like magic, they're assembled, and with no passage of time whatsoever. I started by categorizing my spare bits, including weapons, pauldrons, chin plates, emblems, arms, and torsos. These came from the Beast Snagga Boys, Squighog Boys, and Beast Boss Squigasaur kits. I won't use even half of these, but having them on hand up front will help me decide what to use and when. I started with the two standard boys, replacing the Choppa of the first and the Slugga of the second. The Choppa swap was simple enough, just requiring me to snip off the axe head and the axe's handle, then gluing the replacement blade and the pommel with plastic cement. A small rod would have made this bond more stable, the Slugga was a more destructive modification, requiring me to cut away the gun while also preserving as much of the hand as possible, since the hand on the replacement gun was a righty versus the model's lefty. In retrospect, I could have used the whole hand had I just swapped which boy was receiving which mod, but live and learn. I did my best to keep the hand intact, but still managed to maim this boy a little bit, something to address later. A little trimming for fit, a little plastic cement, and another mod complete. Now, let me nip something in the bud real quick. You may have noticed some mold lines and undrilled barrels on these boys. This is because I was in a rush to use these Kommandos for a tutorial game of Kill Team and rush to get them assembled in time. If you're new to this, take my advice and clean the mold lines off each piece as you cut them off the sprue. It's going to save you a lot of pain and time later. Alright, back to the kit bashing. For the Slasha boy, I decide on transferring some torso details, specifically the loincloth and the hide over the shoulders. The former was a simple snip extraction and some trimming on both the cloth and the Slasha boy for fit. The hide, however, proved trickier. I initially tried using the existing plastic, cutting it off the torso with a small saw and trying to soften it with some acetone, but there was simply no way of making this work without ruining the details as well. So I pivoted and broke out the green stuff. I took a bit of both blue and yellow components in equal measure and mixed them together until I had a nice smooth and green consistency. I flattened it and shaped it roughly into what I was looking for, using my hobby knife to cut away excess and re-expose important details on the boy. I then used some metal sculpting tools, first to smooth out the green stuff, and then to begin carving the texture. If the tool started sticking to the green stuff, I just added a little water and kept going. For this texture, I was looking for large reptile-like scales, not quite dissimilar to a tortoise. With the carving done, I extracted the spikes from the earlier piece and simply pressed them into place. This will mostly hold on its own, but a little super glue after the green stuff is cured for 24 hours will seal the deal. Overall, I don't think it's a bad first attempt at sculpting texture, and it certainly gets the job done. Now for the Boss Nob, I had a clear idea of what I wanted to do from the onset. Now this is an amazing sculpt, but the power claw is a little plain, so this Beast Snagga skull is the perfect bit to spice things up. I just snipped off part of the upper jaw, then used some sprue glue to give the skull a thick layer to adhere with. Some tweezers were used to position it just right, and then we've got something truly intimidating. A less obvious detail is this dish, which I replaced with a Beast Snagga pauldron. It's a subtle difference, but I think it adds to the story that the commandos are replacing parts with what they can find on hand. Now it's in the painting step that this is going to really stand out, so think about getting subscribed so you won't miss on my follow-up video where I actually paint these boys. The Burna Boy was another easy choice. I just add this skull-like pauldron to the mouth of the flama. Comms Boy is another tricky one. I wanted to use this mechanical-like spine. Maybe it's a battery, or maybe it's a biomechanical nerve system acting as some sort of comms data interpreter. Only the boy knows. Probably not the latter, though. I extracted this much in the same way that I tried to extract the hide earlier for the Slasha boy, except this time I didn't want to preserve any of the hide texture, so I was able to carve the bit to actually sort of fit the boy's shoulders. Any gaps would be filled later. The spine didn't feel cohesive on its own though, so I decided to strengthen the integration with some cables running from the spine into the backpack. For this, I just cut some spare wire I had lying around into two pieces, coiled them around one another, and then bent them roughly into shape. Next, I drilled some holes for the wire to run into, then used some green stuff to create plugs on either end of the cable. These I secured into those previously drilled holes with some super glue. Now the Snipa boy is a little sneaky, so I thought a pelt would be the preferable solution. Ideally more fur-like in this case. I tried out a technique I learned from Miss Mini Life on YouTube and created a texture roller out of polymer clay, using this existing Beast Boss torso's fur for the texture. Unfortunately, my clay is brown, and let's just say this is going to look worse and worse as things progress. Once I had the clay in a roughly cylindrical shape, I started to roll it onto the fur. This mostly worked, but the rolling warped the shape and loosened it around the dowel I had been using as a handle. I persevered, and once I was satisfied with the texture, I just needed to bake it at 275 degrees Fahrenheit to solidify it. While that was happening, I got out the green stuff once more, first filling those gaps on the comms boy's shoulder, as well as doing a little repair to that hand I maimed earlier, then creating the base of the Snipa boy's pelt. I initially was going to have it drape across the boy's entire pack, but found the hump looked kinda ridiculous, so I opted instead for more of a scarf, and then a second piece to drape around the heat shroud of the rifle. Of course, my texture roller cracked in the oven, further worsening its appearance. I'm sorry.
We're sorry.
Now, if you try this texture roller technique, make sure you let it cool completely before using it. If you're impatient like me, drop into cold water for a minute. Once cooled, I pressed my green stuff onto the roller, using water as a makeshift mold release. The texture came out less fur-like than I would have liked, more of a scaly texture, but I liked it, so I decided to work with it. I'd come back later after the green stuff had cured to snip off some excess and shape it a little more. In retrospect, I'm not sure if it helped, but here it is. The rest of the boys are fairly simple, so let's save some time and speed things up. For the Breacha boy, I add a particularly toothy plate to the side of the Breacha ram. Very subtle, wish I'd placed on the other side, 2 out of 10. For the Rockit boy, another pauldron. It's big at least, though it needs a few snips. 4 out of 10. And for the Dakka boy, well, I was sort of stumped. Until...
He's got a knife.
That's not a knife. That's a knife.
A snip, some careful extraction of the original knife, don't cut yourself, and some glue. 10 out of 10, cool knife, mate. It did mess with the bedroll's texture, but we'll fix that in the painting stage. That takes care of all the big stuff, but there's a little more left to do. I finally went through and cleaned up all the mold lines and drilled the barrels. Then I knocked out the basing real quick, using watered down Mod Podge, sand, and small pebbles to create my ground texture. While all of that was drying, I made some teeth. All the Beast Snagga models are decked out in teeth, and these commandos barely had any, so I used my green stuff and shaped a bunch. I tried a few other methods as well, including cutting one out of plastic card, but it didn't give me a result that I liked, so I stuck with the green stuff teeth. I then used some 28 gauge wire meant for hanging frames and created some cables, though almost all of them are too long. A little super glue and some dynamic posing, and these commandos are just a little wealthier. I even gave a tooth to the grot and the bomb squig. And with that, I think these boys are ready to paint. Now, this certainly wasn't the most ambitious kit bash, but everyone has to start somewhere. That said, I think I accomplished what I set out to do, and the power claw on that Boss Nob is particularly nice. Now, I had meant for this to only be one video, but the kit bash took more time than I anticipated. And with each of these models being kind of a character on its own, I really felt like I needed to split this up into multiple projects. The painting is well underway, I just need a little more time to work on that particular side of the project. So go ahead and get subscribed if you want to see how that turns out. I hope you had fun tagging along today and maybe even learned something, however small that might be. If you did, consider leaving a like. It really helps me out. And let me know down in the comments what you might have done differently if you were the one snaggifying these commandos. If you want to find me elsewhere on the internet, follow the QR code to my link tree where you can find links to all of my other socials. There you'll find a link to my Blue Sky where I post work in progress photos as well as other general musings. That's it for today. I hope you have a good one and I'll see you on the next endeavor. There's a cat. Oh, where's the kitty? Where's the baby kitty? She wanted to be in the video today. Where are you going? Where are you going? All right, that's enough. Come on, let's go back down.